You ever think about somebody that you've seen on the range and you watch their movements and how fluid and fast their movements are, but also how precise? I mean, precise movements. And then you go watch the UFC or you watch boxing. Roy Jones, for example, Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson beat everybody in the world when he first came out because he had flawless technique. He was using the principles of CQB: speed, surprise, violence of action, and detailed planning. The detailed planning goes into your dry fire. Mike Tyson was just destroying everybody and became a legend. He became a god in boxing. But Roy Jones is another one. If you guys ever watch Roy Jones's technique, his footwork, his hand speed, and his technique, and then you watch somebody like Rob Latham, Doug Koenig, competition shooters, ones who are real methodical and real mechanical, or guys on the range. I see guys in every one of my classes. I see one or two that are really good, and I can tell they spend some time on dry fire. And then I have others who refuse to even work in their workspace, can't reload their weapon properly, take their eyes off of their environment, things like that, because they refuse to dry fire. Now, if you're like me and I see a good fighter, man, I admire that guy, because having been a professional fighter myself, I know what it takes to get the results that you're looking for. And as a weapons instructor for the Department of Defense, for federal law enforcement, for the military, and privately, I know what it takes to have the skills necessary and be able to recognize weaknesses in those people that don't dry fire, that don't practice. Now, if you've ever seen somebody get into a fight and they're really sloppy, and I'm going through the tunnel here in a moment, so I might lose you, but they're really sloppy. They like to dangle their arms around and bounce around and act like they really know what they're doing. And their mindset or their posture would make you think, man, this guy is tough. But then you look at him and you realize, what a bag of ass. He thinks that he looks awesome. He thinks he's going to intimidate you. He thinks he's going to scare you. He thinks he's going to bust some ass. He's jumping around. He's putting his strong hand forward, switching stance. His hands are down. And he's doing all these different things. And then you see guys on the range who do the exact same thing. Now, this guy is always going to get knocked out in a fight. Always. Always. Unless he's fighting Stevie Wonder, he's always going to get knocked out. The guys on the range who have that lazy kind of thing at the same time, same thing. I hope that when they look at other guys shoot, they can look and say, man, that guy is good. And they're taking mental notes or writing down notes, because I encourage note-taking in all my classes. Every once in a while, like I said, I'll have somebody in one of my classes, and these guys will be shit hot, man. They'll be really good. And I love watching them because I learn from them too. I learn a lot from them. And I pay attention to their footwork, because a fighter has to have good footwork. And then I look at the guys on the line who, even though I demonstrate over and over the proper stance, they'll move their feet or they won't do the stance correctly. Okay, turning your fists a certain way. When you punch, turning your hands over. That's what generates power. That's kinetic linking. You get it from your feet all the way up into your fingertips. And good fighters know how to do that as well. And they know how to snap it. Good shooters, same thing. Good master grip. Thumbs are always laced on top of one another. Always full extension of the arms. And they don't cross their thumbs. They don't teak up their grip like we see on the movies. And I still see today's action stars do this when they're shooting. And it just ruins the movie for me. A good stance. A good fighter has to have a good stance. A good shooter has has to have a good stance. If he doesn't have a good stance, he has no natural point of aim. I was watching a guy shooting last weekend, and he was talking about, yeah, every time I point my gun out, it's always in the same spot. And these guys couldn't figure it out. And I was watching him shoot, and I couldn't figure it out either because his feet were all over the place. He had no stance. And the stance is one of the fundamentals of marksmanship. And of course, grip. Okay, a good fighter knows when to make a good punch. They know when to keep their hands relaxed, when to clench and extend, and smack that punch out. A good shooter has a good grip and good trigger control. They're not slapping the trigger, they're not coming all the way off the trigger, they're letting that sear reset, and they have really good follow through. Well, a good fighter, when he lands a punch on you, he doesn't just look around and see where what else is happening. He's looking at you to make sure you're going to stay down. That's his follow through. So when you see these guys who are shadowboxing in the gym, fighters, and they show them warming up, Canelo Alvarez, for example, they're always showing pictures of him shadowboxing. Beautiful technique, beautiful technician. Love watching this guy fight. Just love it. I'd love to see him become the heavyweight champion one of these days. When you watch Floyd Mayweather, he's so relaxed that it almost looks like he's being lazy, but he's not. Man, he is smooth, and he moves like a sewing machine. Other than this last exhibition fight that he did with Logan Paul, which was ridiculous. But you can look at any world-class fighter and you'll see this. I used to see it in Taekwondo competition all the time. Taekwondo fighters with just beautiful footwork. And it's crucial that you do this. So when you guys are on the range, it's crucial that you dry fire, not just on the range. You got to do this all the time. I spend 10 minutes to 15 minutes every single day doing dry fire. I do 3 things. I do 4 things. I practice my draw, I practice my tactical reloads, and my emergency reloads. And then I practice switching hand to offhand to strong hand. Because if you guys have ever been using any sort of simunitions or airsoft or anything like that, your hands get shot a lot. So there's a good chance that if you're ever in a real gunfight, you might lose an appendage. You might lose a hand or a finger and take that hand out of play. So I always practice every day. I practice switching from my strong hand to my support hand, doing my reloads on both sides. And it's just 15 minutes. That's it. But the fact that I dry fire and I practice my draw presentation, I practice picking up my front sight when I extend my arms, I practice my follow through and my scan, all those things come from basically shadow boxing, dry fire. That's what you're doing. So you guys have got to make that a priority in your house. If you're training and you have a firearm that you own for self-defense, you need to take the time to dry fire with it. You need to understand muzzle awareness, when to go muzzle up, muzzle down, muzzle out, muzzle in, when to holster. Those things are all super important. So walk through your house once in a while with your finger gun and clear your corners and clear your dead spaces and your man-sized spaces, and practice. What would you do if there was an intruder in your home and they were in the room with a loved one? How would you get in there? So things like that. But all of it starts, and I teach a lot of room entry, but all of it starts with dry fire, every bit of it. Because if you can't hold a gun correctly, nothing else matters. And this is every guy in the world. And I always joke about it, but guys think 3 things automatically. They think because they're in the military that somehow they're an expert with weapons, which is not true. I've seen so many guys, I've taught guys, and I've thought to myself, and I've even failed guys, holy Jesus Christ, this guy should never touch a firearm. He does not need, put him back in front of a computer or whatever he does, but don't let him have a gun. The guy's just dangerous. So one, just because you're in the military doesn't make you an expert. And even, that's the first thing the media talks about anytime there's a shooting. Was he in the military? We had a guy here last year in Hawaii, killed a couple of cops and burned down several houses in Waikiki. Terrible, terrible tragedy. And the media, man, they were jumping all over it. And all the keyboard investigators. Was he in the military? Was he in the military? He was an old man. He was just a crazy old man. But you need to understand that you need to dry fire all the time. That's something that you need to be doing every day. Even if it's just a fact that you're picking up a gun, pushing out, picking up your sights, and feeling the grip, just feeling how it feels every day. Now, a lot of you like me, you own several guns, and I dry fire a lot with an XD. Okay, newsflash, that's not a Glock. I also have a variety of holsters. I have tactical holsters, concealed holsters, things like that. And I usually use the same holster with my XD. Now, the holster that I have for my XD, my drop leg, is not the same as the holster that I run for one of my Glocks. So again, it's different. So what do you think is going to happen when I get used to drawing that XD out, punching out, doing all my work, and then the day comes I go to a class and I throw on my Glock? It's going to be different. It's going to be different. It might be slightly different. It might be really different, but it's going to be different. So know your weapons and practice with them. I have guys that come out and to my classes and they bring out all sorts of cool guns. I mean, cool guns. And I'm just like, wow, my gosh, that's a lot of money to spend on guns. And I think that I spend a lot of money on guns. But the thing is when I watch some of them once in a while do some of these drills, they can't get through the drills correctly because they don't practice with them. And they're bringing them out, which is that's a good thing, because at least they're practicing with them there, and they're running some rounds through them and seeing how the gun responds, things like that. And that's a great thing. But you got to practice with them all the time. You know, if I'm a revolver shooter and then I go pick up a Smith & Wesson Model 59 semi-automatic, I'm not going to be good with it if that's not what I'm practicing with. So understand that, guys, and get out there and do your dry fire. Take the time and dry fire. It's fun. Set your phone up, watch yourself, see how good you are. You know, I was saying earlier, there's a few things that guys think they don't have to do. They think, I'm in the military, I was in the military 30 years ago, so that qualifies me as an expert. No, it doesn't. The next one is golf. Guys who play golf, doesn't matter how much they suck, if you try to give them some advice, they become offended. I know what I'm doing. And often guys that come to these classes will do the same thing. You try to give them some advice to make them better. Correct your stance, follow through, both eyes open, focus on your front sight, pick your sight up as you're pushing out, trigger reset, things like that. And they'll just continue to do the same bad habits. So, and the last one, of course, is fight. Every guy thinks that he can fight. And I can tell you, as somebody who, when you spar, and I've had guys actually get mad at me, I mean, really resent me, because they wanted to spar with me, and I let them, whenever I spar with anyone, I let them set the pace. And if they're going hard, then of course I go hard. And if they want to work, then I just work. And I've had guys who have really tried to take my head off, so, okay, well, I tag them pretty hard, and then these guys get downright upset with me. Well, you're a black belt, you're a champion, you're an instructor, you're a kickboxer, blah, 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 blah. It's, dude, I'm just a human being, just like you. The thing is I train. I beat you off the line at everything because I train. That's it. You guys, this is Bob Smith. Blood makes you related. Loyalty makes you family. Our next class is going to be a pistol class coming up in August. Stay tuned for details, and we'll get the date posted. Out.